I've been so disappointed with the way that most hosts actually in lefty new media have been covering these progressive challengers in these primaries that have been happening across the country, specifically the more recent primaries that happened in Kentucky and New York, because there's a giant disconnect between the rhetoric and the commentary that they're giving versus the results we've gotten from elected progressives over the last few years. Like, their analysis just completely leaves out all relevant context. Context like how these elected progressives have really put up no resistance to the corporate Democrats in Congress since they've been there. They've gotten no major policy wins, and they've just been serving up one massive, colossal, career-ending failure after the next. So all this excitement that they're and hope that they're trying to put out there, that these progressive candidates that are running in these primaries right now, they're going to be the answer. They're the ones who are going to come in and fix things up. It's silly. It's delusional. And honestly, I think it's worse than that. It's misleading a lot of people and misdirecting where the energy for the left movement in this country should be, and having people focus on the spectacle of progressives winning primaries and progressives taking out incumbent Democrats and making it seem like this is the real answer. This is what it's all about. When what we've learned over the last few weeks is we need to be putting way more energy into protest and organized civil disobedience to put pressure on elected politicians across the country to cave to our demands. And one of the weirdest pieces of revisionism that I've been seeing from some of these new media hosts and a lot of the people who support them is the idea that all the failures of the left, all of these issues where they haven't had any wins on, all of that could be remedied if we just had a couple more progressives in Congress. Oh, we just need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's the thing. Nobody's even specific about exactly how many more progressives we need. But it's just this weird goalpost moving where, come on, you can't put too much blame on these elected progressives and their massive, colossal failures. We just didn't have enough, they didn't have enough reinforcements. They didn't have enough votes in Congress. And if we just get 3, 4, 5, 6 more in this election cycle, then it's really going to be a game changer. Then the folks in Washington, they're really going to be scared and they're really going to be lining up to listen to progressives and implement progressive policies. Like, what makes you believe that? Absolutely. If you've been following politics like I know these people have for the last 2 years or for the last 4 years, there's no piece of evidence that makes that case, that argument convincing. Now, to be clear, I definitely don't think this is a numbers thing. I think the problem is that elected progressives are just weak and spineless and don't have the backbone to stand up to Democratic leadership. So Jamaal Bowman getting elected or Booker in Kentucky or any number of these handful of progressives winning primaries, if they get elected, more than likely they'll just follow in line with the rest of the spineless progressives that are already in Congress. That's what I think is going to happen. But to address the whitewashing and the excusing, the rationalization that this is just because the failures are just, you could just chalk them up to the fact that progressives didn't have, or the lefties didn't have enough votes in Congress. All right, let me just engage in that for a second. What happened with the speaker's race when the Democrats took control of the House after the 2018 midterms? The lefties in Congress, AOC, Pramila Jayapal, Ro Khanna, Tulsi Gabbard, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, none of them tried to organize a left or push a left-wing candidate for speaker. They all got in line and voted for Nancy Pelosi, architect of neoliberalism, the definition of an entrenched establishment Democrat, been in party leadership for decades and has done nothing to move the needle for progressive policies. When it came to a defining moment like that to decide who the leadership of the House was going to be, which was such an important decision, what did the lefties do in Congress? they didn't mount, like I said, they didn't mount some underdog campaign to get at least someone to the left of Nancy Pelosi who supports some sort of progressive policies, whether it's UBI, whether it's Medicare for all, whether it's legalizing marijuana. Any issue to the left of Nancy Pelosi, they didn't do that. They all voted for Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker of the House. So if you add in 3, 4, 5 more progressives in there, well, guess what's going to happen? They're also going to vote for Nancy Pelosi to be the Speaker of the House. And guess what? Nancy Pelosi is going to be Speaker of the House again to push more neoliberal corporatism and U.S. imperialism. So right there, that's not an issue of not having enough lefties in Congress. That's an issue of lefties being weak and not fighting for the policies and the positions and the ideology that they claim to support. You look at the CARES Act and all these other indefensible corporate bailouts, the scams that have been passed through the House and the Senate since the coronavirus pandemic started. Again, it's not like the progressives, the lefties in Congress mounted some type of campaign to say, hell no. These pieces of legislation are the scam of all scams. It's a elaborate fraud and grift to take taxpayer money and trillions of dollars in taxpayer money and give it to the richest people in the country and to give it to corporations while handing over crumbs, a couple $100s to the Americans who desperately need the support of the federal government. Where were the progressives to mount a campaign and to whip votes and say, hell no, I'm not voting for this, and anybody who votes for this shouldn't have a job in Congress? Where were the progressives mounting that fight? They didn't. What happened? Passed with unanimous consent in the House. The progressives didn't even put up a fight to get everybody on the record, to get everybody's opinion on the biggest corporate bailout in history. The progressives didn't even put up a fight to have everybody's name on the record for which way they voted. And they all went along with the bailout, and it passed with unanimous consent in the House, and then it passed without a single vote against it in the Senate, where progressives had even more power to stop it, because if Bernie Sanders wanted to, he could have held the bill by his lonesome, and he didn't. So that's not a problem of, the progressives in Congress, man, they were just down a couple votes. It was down to the wire. And boy, if we had Jamaal Bowman, and if we had just 3 more progressives, we would have had the votes, and the CARES Act would have never passed. And instead, we would have bailed out the people, and we would have been looking at a lot different economic situation and political situation than we have right now in this country. No, that wasn't the case, because like I said, all the elected progressives went along with it. So you add in 3, 4, 5 more of them, guess what's going to happen? It's not going to completely shift the dynamics of Congress. No, that's just 3 or 4 or 5 more progressives who are going to vote for corporate bailouts and neoliberalism and corporatism. That's what that means. But somehow, so many people on the left have convinced themselves that, we really have to be focused on, and again, let me be clear, I'm not against these people being elected. I'm not actively opposing their election. But a lot of people on the left have convinced themselves that, no, we have to give them a pass. We have to give AOC and Justice Democrats in Congress a pass. They don't have enough numbers to do anything. So, of course, they're going to vote for corporatism. Of course, they're going to call Pelosi the mama bear of the Democratic Party and defend her and say how great she is and all that stuff, because they don't have enough numbers. And that is just completely delusional thinking. So, which brings me to the title of this video. I was looking through some old videos, and I came across this video that Kyle Klinsky made about these task forces that Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden have created. And I want to be completely clear. Kyle, in this video, is not commenting on progressives like Jamaal Bowman winning their primary or anything like that. That's not what he's talking about at all in this video. He's talking specifically about these task forces. So I don't want to give the impression that I'm taking his words out of context. But if you were to this video, it perfectly explains, perfectly describes how I'm feeling about all this hype around these around progressives winning primaries. So if you just replace, anytime Kyle says the word task force, replace that with elected progressives or progressives winning primaries, and it perfectly describes how I'm feeling in this moment. So the clip is, it's about a 2-minute video, but I promise you should watch it. It's a great clip, and it perfectly describes the moment, even though that's not what his intention. So watch it, and we'll come back and break it down.
Just don't kid yourself is what I'm saying. Just don't go into this with your eyes wide open and realize that these task forces are nothing but a show. And I know it sucks, and I know it hurts, and I know it's like, wow, well then everything feels hopeless. But it's the truth! And the truth is more important than making yourself feel better with silly fairy tales, okay? And I honestly believe that Pramila Jayapal, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, all these people who are involved in these task forces, I think that they think they're doing the right thing. You know, in the same way that I think when these guys work with Pelosi and don't, you know, buck her and don't call her out, I think that they think they're doing the right thing and they're being clever and they're being crafty, and eventually they'll pull some jujitsu move and then boom, I got her and we'll get my priorities in. So I don't want to go too hard on them. I don't want to question their motives. I think their motives are good, but I do think they're being duped. I do. I think they're being duped. I actually think it's kind of sad to see. And I think that a lot of people on the left are going to believe in these task forces because not believing in them is just a difficult place to be in mentally, because then you feel like everything is hopeless and what's the point? Well, unfortunately, I'm here to burst everybody's bubble and tell them these aren't going to lead to anything, just like the platform isn't going to lead to anything. Whatever the left comes up with will be ignored. And I really think that deep down, if people are really willing to view this honestly, I really think deep down people know it's true. And it's just rationalizations to hang on to some sort of hope. So, you know, Cenk responded to me yesterday, Cenk Uygur, the Young Turks, and he was like, well, you got to give them a chance. Like, you got to give these task forces a chance to do what they're going to do before you judge it. And my response to that is, no, I don't. No, I don't. Because if it is kabuki theater, if it is a show, if the left-wing recommendations are going to be ignored anyway, I'm not going to play this silly game. I'm done playing this silly game. I'm not.
So, like I said before I played the clip, when Kyle was making that commentary, when he made that video, he was specifically talking about the Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders task forces. But I came across it a couple days ago, and it perfectly describes how I'm feeling about this hype surrounding a handful of progressives winning their primary. And if you replace the words task force with elected progressives or progressives winning primaries, in my opinion, that commentary would be 100% spot on in describing the moment we're in right now. And again, to be clear, I'm not even sure exactly where Kyle falls on the importance of these progressives winning their primaries and how big a deal it is. I'm not going to comment on that. All I will say is I've seen him on his Twitter kind of, you know, making a big deal of it and hyping it up. But I'll let him make his own commentary on this issue on his show, and you guys can watch the video and make up your own decisions. But I want to talk about like some of the points he made in that video real quick. The first one is, yeah, if people were being honest, if progressives, people on the left were being honest about what this actually means, and I've been making the point of trying to have people think about this question, instead of looking at the spectacle of beating an incumbent Democrat or underdog progressives winning in primaries, ask yourself, what does this do to get us closer to implementing lefty policies? And if people were to apply that realism and that skepticism to progressives winning, like progressives like Jamaal Bowman winning, if they were being honest, they would admit that, you know what, we've seen these progressives shit the bed at every turn, so adding 3 or 4 of them is not going to completely change the dynamics, can't speak. So I think we should be focused on how do we get protests and civil unrest and strikes that are specific to economic policies so that we could apply pressure to elected politicians to meet our demands. I think if people were being honest and stepped back from the hype and the excitement, I think a lot of honest, reasonable people on the left would come to that conclusion. But they're not even having this conversation, and that's the most frustrating part. None of that is in their commentary or analysis on these primaries, and it's mind-boggling because that's important context. Their analysis, it's like if you copied and paste whatever they would have said in 2016 or 2018 about Justice Democrats, and then you just copied and pasted it to their commentary right now and completely leave out all the context of what these progressives have done since they've been in Congress, which has been shit the bed and got no major policy wins. So that's my point on that. And then his last point was just me 100% right now. People like make it seem like, oh, you're such a downer, you're shitting on, you're just a hater and you're shitting on them. You need to let them at least try to get results before you speak so negatively about them. And my response to that is, no, I don't. Because like I said, I've already seen what progressives have done in Congress, and it's nothing to admire. It's nothing to write home about. It hasn't been impressive. So again, adding 3-4 more people, the chances are they will most likely do the same exact thing that AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and all these useless progressives do in Congress. So why am I going to even entertain the political theater? Why am I even going to give my energy and hype up my audience and pretend like, oh, this is a real game changer, when in reality, I'm not convinced. So no, I don't need to give them a chance to prove me wrong. If they prove me wrong, I'll be the first to come out on this show and be like, God damn, look at them. They really got Medicare for all. They really got UBI. They really they brought Nancy Pelosi to her knees and brought the entire Democratic establishment to their knees. And now they're just handing out left-wing policy wings left and right. If that happens, I'll be the first to admit it, but I'm not gonna come out and give them all the praise and shit that I gave them back in 2016, back in 2018, when this whole movement to elect progressives to Congress started, because they have not earned that same level of energy and excitement because they've done nothing since they've been there. So that's my take on this, and I have another video that I'm planning on doing where I provide some videos, some examples of lefties and new media just doing rank propaganda and useless praise of AOC and all these other elected progressives. Again, with really no context for how much they've been a failure since they've been in Congress. So that's my take on that.